girl with a preppy vibe. Came to the spot with a friend of mine. She caught my eye. From the beginning, I was hooked. I can't tell a lie. Fresh, dressed, and fly. I respect her mind. Some dude trying to impress, but looking goofy at the same time. He bugging, she looking. I'm going for mine. Confidently, I approach with that eye-to-eye contact.
Hey y'all, welcome to the check-in. I'm your girl, STEMFashionista, okay? Happy hump day. Y'all, it's already Wednesday. We have so much to get into today. I know I say it every live stream, but it's true, okay? Today, we're definitely going to tap into what's really going on here. You know, is Iran talking to the United States? Who are they talking to? Okay. Does this 15-point peace plan really exist? We need to know, right? What's going on with the shutdown, with DHS and everything? Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and get going. First off, we're gonna talk about whether or not a 15-point peace plan truly exists. Carolyn Levitt did a press secretary um session today, and she gave us a little bit of insight into that. So let's go ahead and get into it, all right? Here we go.
Just within the past few hours, Iranian state TV has said that Iran has rejected the U.S.'s 15-point plan to end the war. What's the White House's response to that, and have these talks hit a dead end?
They have not. Talks continue. They are productive, as the president said on Monday, and they continue to be. However, I saw a 15-point plan that was floated in the media. I would caution reporters in this room from reporting about speculative points or speculative plans from anonymous sources. The White House never confirmed that full plan. There are elements of truth to it, but some of the stories I read were not entirely factual. So I am not going to negotiate on behalf of the president here at the podium. What I will tell you is these talks are ongoing. We're not going to get into the nitty-gritty details that have been exchanged between the United States and Iran at this time.
Well, yesterday the president mentioned a very big present that the Iranians had given the U.S. He wouldn't go into detail, but was it that ship that was carrying 2 million barrels of oil that made it through the Strait of Hormuz?
I'll let the president speak on that at the appropriate time.
And then finally, Caroline, today Iraq's government reportedly is planning to lodge a protest with the U.S. According to the Wall Street Journal. There was an attack in Iraq that hit a military clinic, killing 7 soldiers reportedly. What's the U.S.'s response to that? Was the U.S. responsible for that attack?
I'll have to check in with the Pentagon on that, and we'll get you an answer.
Thank you, Caroline. Too, if I may. Speaker Johnson today described the conflict as wrapping up, but the 82nd Airborne Division, they're typically deployed at the beginning of conflicts. So does the White House consider this conflict as wrapping up, or is it changing shape?
As I said at the beginning of my remarks, we are meeting our goals of Operation Epic Fury expeditiously. The president likes to maintain options at his disposal. It's the Pentagon's job to provide those options to the commander-in-chief. For any specifics on troop deployments, though, I would point you to the Pentagon.
Okay. So you guys heard from Carolyn Levitt, the press secretary, that they were saying that the 15-point peace plan is more of speculation opposed to being fact. There is some level of truth to it, but she wasn't going to go into any specifics regarding as to what is fact and what is fiction, okay? Now, as we talked about yesterday, Iran is saying, well, we're not talking with the United States about any ceasefires or peace plans, so and then, but Trump is saying, oh, we're talking to Iran. They want a deal. So it's just kind of all over the place, right? Let's go ahead and see what they have to say about the confusion regarding whether or not peace talks are actually taking place. Let's get into it.
Right, so President Trump says negotiations are underway with Iran, even as the U.S. prepares to send more troops to the region. According to the Associated Press, the Trump administration had submitted a 15-point ceasefire plan to Tehran, but the Iranian military is mocking the president's claims of negotiations. In this pre-recorded video, an Iranian military spokesperson said, quote, "Don't dress up your defeat as an agreement." President Trump had a much different outlook yesterday when he told our Ed O'Keefe that Iran gave the U.S. a big present related to oil and gas.
What's the big present?
Because they're going to make a deal. They're going to make a deal. They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the president arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is.
Very mysterious. Meanwhile, fighting is still underway in the region. Overnight, Israel and Iran traded strikes, and Tehran says it fired missiles at U.S. military bases in Kuwait, in Jordan, and Bahrain. We've got team coverage on all of this for you this morning. Holly Williams is tracking the fighting from Tel Aviv. We'll speak with her in just a moment, but let's begin with CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro in our Washington, D.C. bureau. Aaron, good morning. So the U.S. and Iran right now are sending much different messages when it comes to negotiations. Clarify exactly what the president is saying now.
Errol, President Trump has said that these negotiations with Iran allegedly began since this weekend and went into yesterday. He has claimed that there have been 15 points of agreement that have been sent to Iran. We have learned that that has been sent through an intermediary country in Pakistan, and that Iran has agreed to 3 big points, or at least the president's top 3 points, which is preventing them from ever being able to build a nuclear weapon. Take a listen to what he told reporters in the White House earlier yesterday afternoon.
We're in negotiations right now. They're doing it along with Marco, JD. We have a number of people doing it. And the other side, I can tell you, they'd like to make a deal. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and we're talking about that. And I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that.
Now,
let me say this. So he's very confident they are not going to have a nuclear weapon and that they've agreed to this. So if they've agreed to this, why are we still in a state of turmoil, right? Why do we have ground troops being deployed out to the region? We have the folks still on that Navy ship taking 2 weeks to get out there. Why is it still ongoing if they've agreed to this major request? But let's keep it going, y'all.
in regards to that gift that President Trump mentioned, and you saw a clip of that earlier in the show, the president said it was related to oil and gas and the Strait of Hormuz, but did not clarify on what exactly that was. As you mentioned, Iran has repeatedly denied that these negotiations were happening in the first place, as they have suggested through spokespeople such as the Speaker of the Parliament or that military spokesperson that you just heard a clip from, that the president is saying that there are negotiations happening in order to alleviate oil markets that have really ramped up the pressure for him domestically to end this war.
And Aaron, the U.S. now expected to deploy troops from the 82nd Airborne Division to the Middle East. Tell us about this group and where they might go.
Yeah, this is about 1,500 troops heading to the Middle East, including a command element and some ground forces. That is in combination with 3 warships and about 2,200 Marines that have been on their way to the Middle East. They left a couple weeks or so ago from California.
Right.
We know that President Trump has been briefed on potential military actions, including the use of ground troops and potentially special forces to seize enriched uranium that can be used to build a nuclear bomb in Iran. But sources have also said that he has not yet made a final decision, even as he says publicly that he has decided not to send troops.
All right, Aaron Navarro in Washington, D.C. Aaron, thank you. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Holly Williams joins us now from Tel Aviv to discuss this. Holly, good morning to you. Give our viewers just a bit of a reality check here. What do we actually know about the state of negotiations with Iran? It's tough to believe the president when he says the nation has agreed to give up any effort toward nuclear weapons.
Right.
Hey there, Errol. Well, look, President Trump made a number of claims yesterday. He said that Iran was eager to do a deal. He said that Iran had agreed that it cannot have nuclear weapons, which, if true, is major news. And he also talked about that mysterious present, which he said was given by Iran to the US and was worth a lot of money and somehow connected with oil and gas. But the only thing that Iran has confirmed to CBS News is that it's received points from the US through mediators and they are being considered. And then we heard from that Iranian military spokesman today who openly mocked President Trump's talk of a ceasefire deal, saying, quote, have your internal conflicts reach the point where you are negotiating with yourselves. So there are some big questions about what's actually being discussed. There's also some big questions about who the US is actually talking to. President Trump says it's the right people within the Iranian regime. Whether those people speak for the entire Iranian regime, of course, we don't know. We know that the regime has long been factionalized, and there's speculation that it's become further fractured as a result of this war. And finally, the issue, I guess, is one of trust. The US was negotiating with Iran when it launched this war. So there are questions about how much trust Iran will have in any negotiations or any ceasefire deal that may be on the table.
And we'll drill into regime, what that means in Iran in just a second, Holly. But we want to just point to the president suggesting that there had, in fact, been regime change. Let's just play exactly what he said.
We have really regime change. You know, this is a change in the regime because the leaders are all very different than the ones that we started off with that created all those problems.
Holly, help our viewers make sense of that. Yesterday at about this time, we were speaking with Elizabeth Palmer, and she mentioned that there is a fractured state of Iranian leadership, and there has been for some time. So what does regime change really mean?
So, Errol, President Trump there is apparently suggesting that because some of Iran's leaders have been killed by strikes and replaced, that constitutes regime change. There has been regime change in Iran. Let's pull that apart. At the beginning of the conflict, both President Trump and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu apparently hoped for regime change in Iran, encouraging ordinary Iranians to rise up against their own government. But so far, that hasn't happened. There have been mass protests in Iran in the past, but it hasn't happened in the context of this war. I think for that reason, most Iran watchers would probably push back against the idea that regime change has actually occurred. In fact, many of them say that the new leaders in Iran are more conservative, more hardline than their predecessors. The bottom line, I think, Errol, is that there is no question that the Iranian regime has been further weakened by this war. Israel's military told us that 70% of their ballistic missile launches have been neutralized and they are no longer producing any new ballistic missiles at all. What that means is that Iran's capacity to project power to do damage has been severely degraded. But the Iranian regime, the Islamic Republic that's been there since 1979, however weakened, however fractured by this war, still seems to be alive and kicking.
Very important points. Holly Williams, thank you.
Okay, so we have Mark Granger here giving some insight, saying that yes, they have had a regime change. They've had one Ayatollah to another. And so they were saying that the second Ayatollah, the one that's the son to the original, that they haven't seen this man. The last thing I saw is that someone read a statement that he had provided. So not sure what's going on with that, but okay. Also, like I said in the chat here, I don't know if Iran is going to be willing to do any more negotiations for real since, the United States, had went into negotiations and then attacked them, what we have going on now. And then also last summer. Now, I wish I would have had that clip from President Bush, the second one, where he was saying, shame on, first time, shame on me. Second time, shame ain't gonna be a second time. Y'all know what he was saying on that clip. I wish I had that for this moment. But yes, y'all, we have a lot going on here. If you're new to the check-in, let me know in the comments. Also, please like the stream. And if you are so inclined, please subscribe. Help us out. It is free. Okay, what do we have here? Let's see. I did do a couple of surveys. And the first one I did was, do you think an actual 15-point peace plan exists? 58% said no. 26% said, are you serious? What peace plan? And then 16% said, yes, of course it does. All right. And then I have another poll going, but it's actually still active. So we have my homie Rowdy Green here saying J. Cole used that Bush clip in his music. Okay. Yeah, I wish I would have gotten that clip saved so I could play that for y'all. I'm gonna do better, okay? So then we have at Ron PD here, welcome to the check-in, saying it's something like fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Okay, yes, that is right. But President Bush had put his own little spin on it, but that's essentially what it meant, okay? So next up, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about Iran dismissing this peace plan. So allegedly, Iran was the one that said, hey, we received this 15-point peace plan by way of Pakistan, and we don't agree. Okay. So let's go ahead and see what all they have to say in regards to this quote unquote alleged peace plan. Okay. Let's get into it.
First, Iran today has dismissed a 15-point American plan to pause the war in the Middle East. This according to Iranian state television a short while ago. The Iranian government also reportedly announcing its own proposal today, asking for war reparations and for sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. With me now, Philip Turl, our foreign affairs editor, who's been following developments closely for us. Lots of news coming out of Iran, lots of statements, and a couple of hours before that, lots of statements coming out of Washington. What's your read as to where we are right now?
It's no surprise that we've had this counter-statement by the Iranians following comments by Donald Trump earlier on that Iran wants a deal so badly it's given the US a prize related to gas, oil and the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran dismissing that, saying that the US was negotiating by itself. Then this 15-point plan coming forward from the United States saying that that was also being discussed by Iranian officials. Donald Trump saying that they had very good people discussing it. But now, of course, we have this reply from Iran saying that they're not interested in the 15-point agreement. What Iran is saying here, two things that are important to understand. What Iran is saying here is basically what they said all the way down the line. That is, they want to keep control of the Strait of Hormuz. This is like their key negotiating platform. Once they lose the control of the Strait of Hormuz, they're going to have a lot less to negotiate with the United States, because that is going to keep them in a strong position. So what they want is to charge money for ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz. Friendly ships will pay about $2 million going through. Ships from countries from the United States and its allies are still not being allowed through. That is their negotiating tactic with the United States. But that's not all. As you said, there's also this negotiating tactic about reparations. They want $100 billion worth of reparations from Israel and from the United States. That's going to be a no-go from both of those countries. So there are many other aspects that Iran is not going to give in to that were on this list of 10 points put forward by the United States. Just to give you a couple of those. The first one is to stop funding proxies in the region, like the Houthis, for example, like Hamas, like Hezbollah. That was certainly something that Iran has refused to do right the way down the line, and it would certainly refuse to stop its ballistic missile program, which was one of the other elements on the table being put forward by the United States. So what we've got here is pretty much a stalemate, I think, on the part of both countries. The United States playing up, as Donald Trump has said, saying they're completely desperate, they want to negotiate, we're going to find a way out of this, to put himself in a good light with the United States and with the oil markets. Remember, there's been a 5-day delay on this ultimatum by Donald Trump to open the Strait of Hormuz or face bombing raids on power installations in Iran. That has led to a calming of the markets. But at the same time, Iran knows that it can play the long-term game here. What Iran wants is for the regime to survive. It can play as long as it wants to. It knows the United States and it knows that Israel have got a time clock hanging over their heads to get this war over and finished. The longer the Iranian regime knows it can hold on, the more chance it has of surviving in the long run.
And look, within the last few minutes, and we've heard from the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, Philip, he says, look, this war, and I quote, has gone on too far. He's calling for an end to both the Iranian attacks on the Gulf and obviously the Israeli-American attacks on Iran. But given that we have this American buildup of troops in the region, it doesn't seem that we may be particularly near a close to this, does it?
Well, we don't know what is going to happen next. The whole thing here, and there is that it's very unclear. The messages coming out of the United States are completely contradictory from one day to the next, from 1 minute to the next, from President Trump. The Iranian regime has not budged in its demand that the war come to an end and that the regime remains intact. That appears to be the case. Remember, the regime is a despicable regime run by fanatical people, but it knows what it's doing. It's very well encompassed within Iran, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon. I think the big error from the United States was thinking just a couple of days of bombing raids on Tehran and the regime would collapse and that will be the end of it. Well, that's not the case. So that was a total misjudgment on the part of the United States. That's why Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, has been talking in the last few minutes, saying that the world is staring down the barrel of a wider war. This has gone on far too long, and the human and economic pain will get worse the longer the fighting goes on. So a lot of concern around the world, certainly in Western capitals, in the Gulf, I think amongst people in the United States and also in Asia, about where this is all going to end up at the end of the day. And what President Trump's next plan is. Is he preparing a ground offensive? There are all these troops being built up into the area, 5,000 Marines, 2,000 or so airborne troops coming in. Does that signal that at the end of this ultimatum on Friday, which is due to expire at midnight, that Donald Trump could launch some kind of ground offensive into Iran to win back the state of Hormuz or take control of Hog Island? We really don't know where all of this is going right now.
I can tell y'all this. You know, they have the internet over there in Iran, and they know that the United States is sending over those ships. They're getting ready to deploy the 82nd organization out to that area. So do you think that they're not getting prepared themselves for a potential, ground situation? Of course they are. I was hearing earlier today before I started this live stream that Iran is putting more of their troops over there on Hog Island. Okay. They are not going to they're not going to say, here you go, here's Hog Island, here's the Strait of Hormuz. They're not going to just willingly give that up. That's their bargaining chip. Okay, they're not going to do that. So I was kind of shocked when I heard them saying they were charging what, $2 million for somebody to go through that Strait of Hormuz. Let me tell you, the Iran people, they have learned from the past and they have studied and they have put things into place for how they want to move forward with this situation right here. Okay, this is not another Venezuela. Okay, these people are ready for the long term, for the end game, honey. They're not going to just go ahead and give away Strait of Hormuz control. They're not going to be willing to not be able to have nuclear weapons. I don't see it. I could be wrong. And that was the first three things on Trump's list. No nuclear weapons for Iran. Okay. And I don't think they're going to agree to it. But we'll see in the coming days. I want to say that they have until midnight on Friday to open up the Strait of Hormuz. In Iran's mind, it is open. It's open to people they're friendly with. If you are not an ally of theirs, it's closed to you, but it's open to others. They have said that. Okay. So what we're going to get into right now is exactly what the alleged peace plan entail. Considering that, the press secretary is saying, well, that's not necessarily true, but there are some true aspects to this list. We're going to call it alleged, okay? Let's go ahead and get into that, y'all.
A 15-point peace plan pitched as the roadmap to end one of the most dangerous conflicts in the world right now. But here is the twist, viewers. Even as US President Donald Trump pushes what he calls a pathway to peace with Iran, Tehran says there are no talks at all. So what exactly is this plan? Is it a genuine off-ramp from war or a strategic pressure tactic wrapped in the name of diplomacy? As the US-Israel military campaign against Iran grinds on, a new proposal has quietly surfaced, reportedly sent through intermediaries like Pakistan. According to multiple reports, this is a 15-point framework designed to end hostilities, stabilize the region, and reset relations in the Middle East. But early reactions are already raising red flags. Because what is being presented as a New Deal looks strikingly familiar.
Okay.
In fact, reports suggest this plan is not new at all. It is a repackaged, rebranded version of earlier nuclear negotiations that already failed even before the war escalated. Let's break down what the US is actually asking. At the heart of the proposal lies one sweeping demand: total dismantling of Iran's nuclear program. That includes ending all uranium enrichment, handing over enriched nuclear material, shutting down major facilities like Natanz nuclear facility, Fordo fuel enrichment plant, and Isfahan nuclear technology center, and also allowing unrestricted international inspections of those areas. But it doesn't stop there, viewers. The second pillar targets Iran's missile program. Washington wants strict limits on ballistic missiles, restricting them only to the so-called self-defense. And the third, perhaps the most sensitive one, a demand that Iran abandon its regional proxy network. That means cutting support to groups like Hezbollah and the Houthis in Yemen, groups that form the backbone of Iran's influence across the Middle East. There is also an immediate war component here. Keep the Strait of Hormuz open and move toward a temporary ceasefire, reportedly around 1 month, to allow negotiations to happen smoothly. In return, the United States is offering full sanctions relief support for a civilian nuclear program under strict oversight and removal of the controversial snapback sanctions mechanism against Iran. So on paper, it sounds like a deal. But here is the problem, viewers. Every single one of these incentives has been offered before, and every single time, negotiations collapsed. This is where the reality check kicks in. For Iran, the deal is asking for something massive: to give up 3 pillars of its power: nuclear leverage, missile deterrence, and even the regional influence. And in return, promises that Tehran is no longer trusting. Because from Iran's perspective, past negotiations did not lead to peace. They led to airstrikes and escalations. That is why Iranian officials are calling the entire plan fake. And here is the biggest shift of all. This is no longer the pre-war Middle East. After weeks of conflict, losses, and escalation, Iran's expectations have changed. Now, analysts say Tehran will likely demand security guarantees against future US or Israeli strikes, recognition of its regional role, and possibly even compensation for war damage. Yes, so the big question is this a real peace plan, or a diplomatic script that no longer matches the reality on the ground? What do you think about it? Tell us in the comment section below.
I'll tell you what I think about it. I think that Iran realized that, hey, they have a bargaining chip with that shit of Hormuz and their sea denial. So, and they're going to leverage it, okay? Now, while we have President Trump speaking about peace plans and, that, Iran really wants to get to a deal and all this other kind of stuff, Iran is over here bombing Israel, okay? So let's get into that real quick.
Iran continued to strike targets inside Israel on Wednesday. An Iranian missile landed near the city of Haifa, sending a plume of smoke into the sky. Elsewhere, a missile caused a huge fire at a warehouse in the town of Yashresh. Well, Noor Oda is in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. And Noor, let me start first of all, before we talk about strikes. Are we hearing from Israeli officials weighing in on this indirect exchange of messages, shall we call it, between the US and Iran about ending the war?
Well, we heard briefly from the Israeli Prime Minister, Sami. He was speaking to mayors and members of local councils in northern Israel, of the front line, so to speak. And a lot of what he said had to do with, being strong, staying strong, crushing Hezbollah and creating a buffer zone on Lebanese territory. But he also spoke about Iran and said that Israel has never been higher. Iran has never been lower. Take a listen at some of what he had to say.
We have created a genuine security zone that does not allow a ground infiltration towards the Galilee or the northern border. We are expanding the security zone to push the threat from anti-tank missiles on our communities and on our territory. We are simply creating a large buffer zone.
And Noor, we know that there's been some Iranian strikes on Israel today, including on some significant places like Eilat, right? Talk us through what that means for Israel.
Yeah, a lot of the targets, Sammy. I mean, you look at the map, first of all, the geography. This is a very small country. And so everything is close to one another. But when you look at Eilat, this is a significant strategic city in Israel. It's a tourist destination, but it also has an important port. It has a base for the Israeli Navy. It's been the target of repeated Iranian strikes today and even before that. We saw also Haifa come under fire, the Khdera, where there is a power station that feeds Israel with about a fifth of its electricity. We saw yesterday Safad, also significant. It has very important intelligence assets and so on. And so the targets, although what we know is what is cleared by the Israeli military censor, but the targets are significant for the country in terms of psychology, in terms of what these locations mean, in terms of the density of the population, and then the damage that we see in Tel Aviv, in Dimona, and in others. It's been quite significant and increasingly so over the past few days.
And that's Noor Auda for us from.
Okay, y'all. So we saw how Iran is over there still attacking Israel. And I guess because Israel is said they're gonna go deeper into Lebanon, okay? Now what they're saying allegedly is that Israel is concerned that, President Trump may do a unilateral end to this Operation Epic Fury, okay? So let's go ahead and see what they got going on with that.
Israel this Wednesday has continued to strike targets in Iran. That as Iran maintains its attacks on Israel, with air raid sirens sounding across the country this Wednesday. For more, we can cross now to Israel to speak with our correspondent in Jerusalem, Noga Tarnopolsky. Noga, I know that you've been in your bomb shelter at least 3 times in the past 24 hours. What's going on in Israel today, Noga?
That's right. I've been in several different bomb shelters, actually, because even just, an experiment like trying to go out for a drink in general these days ends up in a bomb shelter. What's going on in Israel is a lot of confusion. I have to tell you, my impression is that the Israeli authorities know as much about these talks as you and I do, which is saying quite something given how close the military alliance continues to be between the United States and Israel. But, while you were speaking just now with Reza, we received a statement from the Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi, who said there are no negotiations. He said messages are being transferred back and forth, but there are no negotiations, and that he reiterated a very hard line for Iran. He said that Iran demands a complete end to the war and reparations for damages done. That's it. In Israel, the government appears to be just listening and waiting for these messages, and in particular for Donald Trump, so that today we have heard at the same time that the U.S. is significantly upping its military presence in the region, not in a formation to defend Israel that has been quite roughly hit, but in a formation that could indicate even the deployment of ground troops in Iran. And at the same time, we're hearing genuine concerns from the Israeli government that Donald Trump could unilaterally decide an end to this war as soon as Saturday. So it's a bit of a chaotic sense here. And remember that the Iranians are also demanding that Israel halt its operations in Lebanon. So all of Prime Minister Netanyahu's statements saying that Israel is about to go deeper into Lebanon, that even if the war in Iran ends, the one in Lebanon will continue. All of his statements at this point are cast in doubt while awaiting whatever Donald Trump determines.
Noga Tarnopolsky reporting from Jerusalem. Thank you.
So I think Bull Monkey, they were saying they call her Noga Tom. Is that what I think she just said? Noga Tom? Yeah, I tried to enlarge it on my screen here, but I could not. So yeah, could not do it. We have Catwalk here. Welcome to the check-in. Saying America and Israel brothers. We have Troy Barnett, 1981 here. Welcome to the check-in. Okay. Then we have Christina Paxos here. Welcome. Now, y'all, I'm gonna tell you, I don't know the different flags that you guys are putting here. So I don't know who is the blue and white. I don't know who is the red, white, and green. I know red, white, and blue though. Okay. We have Oliver B 2000. Welcome to the check-in. Saying Israel is done regardless. This is already written. What is playing out? Okay. Boomaki is saying Naga something. It sounded like something flushing the toilet. Okay, Boomaki. We have Catwalk saying Iran lie all the time. Iran is a terrorist state. Hello. Okay. So next up, y'all, we're gonna move over a little bit. So with the Strait of Hormuz being closed to America and its allies, but open to the allies of Iran. Okay. The United States farmers are having a difficult time with getting fertilizer. Okay, so if they don't get the fertilizer, we're gonna probably experience some issues with food in the coming months. Okay, because right now is the planting season. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what they have to say about this. I wasn't tracking that we got so much fertilizer from over there. In that part of the world. I never knew that. Okay. So what did you guys know that all this fertilizer comes from over there in addition to the oil? I was today years old. Let's get into it.
It's not just oil and gas prices. The war in Iran is also having a significant impact on the price of fertilizer, and that's adding even more pressure to American farmers. The Middle East is home to some of the world's largest fertilizer plants. About a third of the world's fertilizer actually passes through the Strait of Hormuz. And the timing here, as farmers are preparing for their spring planting season, that too is important. Higher prices to grow and to transport your food, of course, can also drive up the prices that you pay at the grocery store. Joining me now is John Boyd Jr. He's the founder and president of the National Black Farmers Association. John, it's good to have you back with us this morning. I mean, just walk us through. I was struck by, it's my understanding that most U.S. farms do use fertilizer made in North America, but there was one corn and soybean farmer from Illinois who told CNN he can't even get a price at this point on a key fertilizer component because prices are rising so quickly. What are you seeing?
Well, you know, price of fertilizer is up 40%. That's anywhere between $140 and $200 a metric ton. And for the average farmer in this country, that's going to mean an additional $100,000 bottom line cost in this country. And, you know, what's alarming to me is we have, what my staff told me this morning, 194 farm foreclosures pending. And we can't get the help to help them, but we have $1 billion a day for this war. And the reception we're getting from corporate America and foundations is deplorable that they're not coming to the aid of these farmers that are in foreclosure. So here we, on top of all that, now we can't get fertilizer. In my own hometown, I haven't been able to secure an order of fertilizer from my own farming operation. So wow. I'm speaking now as someone who experiencing this right now, and the Agriculture Secretary told CNN, I believe that you know, farmers already have purchased fertilizer, they already have it, and she's out of touch if she really believes that, because I'm telling you, the farmers that I met with this past weekend, none of them had secured fertilizer for this year, and many were behind in their farm notes. So this is a farm crisis, you know. In any other part of the world, if you know, we lose 15,000 farms last year, that would be a national crisis. But here at home, it just doesn't seem to get the attention that it deserves from the American people here.
You said that you just said the Agriculture Secretary, I believe your words were, is out of touch. She doesn't understand what's actually happening. I know you have been really vocal, especially over the last year, as you were dealing with tariffs, specifically as you were dealing with the U.S.-China trade war, a major issue for soybean farmers. What has the response been when you've reached out to lawmakers, when you've reached out to officials in the administration? Are they taking your calls? Are they listening to your concerns?
Well, Congress has taken that course. We did have a meeting on the Hill there, and I expressed the need for more that type of meetings. But the U.S. Ag Secretary has not came to the table. They have not granted us a meeting. And that's why I'm saying if they have not met with the largest organization in the United States that represents Black and other farmers of color, and haven't had any dialogue, you're definitely out of touch with American farmers, because we're farmers too. So what I'm saying is that, farmers had fertilizer, was able to secure fertilizer last year. That was before the tariffs, people. These policies that the president has put in place have driven American farmers out of business, and you're going to see more farmers on the foreclosure blocks in the coming months, because this administration keeps saying, "Oh, this is a short-term problem. The problem with oil and fertilizer is going to be short-term." And the president said, when oil prices go up to $100 a barrel, they make money. Who is they? Because America's farmers are losing money. $5 a gallon for diesel fuel, and I have a tractor that holds 100 gallons. People, that's $500 every time I fill it up, and I'm already struggling out here. So where's the urgency of now to help farmers like myself and those 194 farmers who are facing foreclosure? Where's the urgency of now from somebody in this country to help us?
For more analysis on this, we're joined from Washington by agriculture expert Vanessa Garcia-Polanco. She's also a government relations expert at the National Young Farmers Association. Thanks so much for being here with us. I really appreciate it. So on the fertilizer piece of this, just to start with, the U.S. makes most of its own fertilizer right here at home. So break down for us why a shipping lane on the other side of the world still hits American farmers this hard.
Yeah, definitely. What we see is that American farmers are still heavily dependent on inputs for abroad, and that fertilizers is one of them. Even with all our domestic production, we have not been able to be completely self-reliant and self-sufficient. And we have seen those shocks before. For example, when the war on Ukraine started, we saw also a spike on fertilizer prices. So even we would like to have more domestic resilient production for fertilizers, we're still heavily dependent on the ones from abroad.
Okay, so when the Strait of Hormuz shut down and fertilizer, not just fertilizer, but fuel prices as well started going through the roof, I mean, what were farmers telling you?
We're definitely hearing that farmers are just more concerned about the increasing cost of production. Increase on fuel prices trickle down to increased prices and volatility in other prices against the food supply chain and in the production chain that farmers use. Anything that needs to be transported to the United States internally and domestically will see an increase in prices because it is just more expensive to transport that input for the farm, let that be mechanization, let that be fertilizer, let that be seeds, or many other inputs that farmers use. It's just more expensive to get it to where the farmer needs, where it's coming from. So all that trickles down to an increaser cost of production.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, the cost is going up. I mean, many farmers here, I guess at this time, as I mentioned, it's basically planting season. So what happens then if a farmer just can't get the fertilizer they need in time or they can't afford it?
Farmers are really resilient, so we hope and trust that they will be able to create some flexibility on the farm to maybe adapt to other inputs. But at the same time, that requires a lot of resources and technical assistance. And farmers may not be able to pivot that fast in one growing season to that adaptability. What we may also see is that we may see the Department of Agriculture use their authority to increase domestic production. Again, we have seen this before when the war in Ukraine started, and we saw over $200 million go to increase domestic production.
Yeah.
At the same time,
yeah, just curious because you mentioned sort of the need to be flexible and to perhaps change crops and so on. I mean, that's easier, I guess, for bigger farms. Your group focuses a lot on the little guys, small farms and farmers who are just starting out. I imagine, for them, they're going to get hit a lot harder by this than the massive corporate farms. Is that right?
No, in the contrary, smaller farms tend to be more resilient and more adaptable because they're able to shift to all the geopolitical and market shifts better. When monoculture, bigger farms, it's harder for them to adapt. Like a big farm cannot change the crop that they're growing now. Like they may change the practices on how to manage their growing without fertilizers and different inputs. But like actually changing a lot of their business plan, this lane is hardly impossible.
So then, we're talking about farmers, but for folks at home, I mean, how does all of this end up affecting what we're paying at the grocery store or what will be available on our table?
Definitely. Farmers are really worried that have to transfer the increase of cost to their consumers. That's something that they don't want to do. Every farmer that I talk to tells me, I don't want to have to increase my prices because I'm not going to break even, but I still have to break even. At the same time, we are really worried that it's going to create more erosion in consumer confidence in domestic production. So we are really going to probably see an increase in prices and food prices in a moment that we have not still have high inflation.
Yeah, something so many people can't afford with the rising price of gas and everything else going up as well. I want to end with this. The Farm Bureau is asking the White House and Congress for help. What's the one thing that needs to happen right now to help keep these farmers afloat?
We definitely need more financial assistance directly from the Department of Agriculture because farmers have a lot of economic uncertainty since last year, so this is only adding on. So we would like to see action from the USDA and Congress as financial relief for farmers, not only tied to economic uncertainty and tariffs and the geopolitical situation, but to really help farmers create a safety net that actually makes them viable.
Yeah, let's certainly hope there's bipartisan cooperation to help out our farmers because it affects all of us in the end, obviously. Vanessa Garcia Polanco, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd be interested to find out or see what they do to help these farmers out because he's saying they're barely making ends meet. Some people are about to hit foreclosure, all those things. They have prices going up. So they're gonna definitely pass those costs on to us as consumers of what they're producing and harvesting out there. Okay. Now, another thing that came up with this whole shit Hormuz thing is about okay, when Trump announced his 5-day delay for his deadline, apparently folks had spent up to like 580 million doing betting on oil. So they're thinking, okay, there may have been some type of inside trading going on, insider information has been passed out to folks to do those type of bets. So let's see what they're talking about regarding that. Y'all, $580 million for an oil bet. Who knew?
The war rages on. There are new reports now suggesting insider trading on oil. The Financial Times is reporting that traders placed $580 million worth of oil bets just ahead of President Trump's social media post Monday morning on Iran talks. The paper says that the bets came about 15 minutes before the president's post touting productive talks and postponing strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for 5 days. Our Elizabeth Schulze joins us now with more. Wow. So what exactly do we know about what's going on here?
Yeah, not surprisingly here, Kira, this is raising a lot of eyebrows on Wall Street and also among some lawmakers here in Washington. The question is, was there information that traders who placed those big bets had that allowed them to get that information early and make huge profits? So let's walk back how this happened. The president's post came just after 7 a.m. He touted that progress, saying that there had been constructive conversations toward ending the war. That would be a good thing for the markets. That would mean oil prices would go down and stocks would go up. And that is exactly what happened after the president made that post. Well, exactly 15 minutes before that, what we saw was this huge spike in volume. And you can see it right there in that chart on your screen, 6:49 a.m., a spike in volume trading for oil futures, both WTI crude oil and Brent. So what that shows is a lot of people at that time were placing these bets. And according to the Financial Times, those bets were worth $580 million. If you've been buying oil if you've been selling oil and then oil went down, that would have been a pretty good trade, Kira. Likewise, if you've been buying stocks and they surged and you've done that in advance, that would have been a pretty good trade. So we immediately did hear some backlash to this. We saw Democratic Senator Chris Murphy immediately question if this could have been insider trading. He even did write On X there, you can see who was it. Was it President Trump? Was it a family member, a White House staffer? The White House, in a statement, did say that the White House does not tolerate any administration official illegally profiteering off of insider knowledge. We also reached out to the agencies that would typically regulate this kind of activity, the SEC, the CFTC. They declined to comment on this, Kira.
All right. Well, we're going to stay on top of it, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about this $580 million oil bet? I'm putting in a question into this poll real quick. How do you explain this $580 million oil bet? Is this happenstance? Is it insider trading? Or we'll say, good question. I think that is, I don't think it's a happenstance that they just decided to start trading $580 million for oil bets 15 minutes before this man gives his statement. But, I could be wrong, okay? So let's get into that, y'all. Let's see. Next up, as you guys know, the government shutdown is still ongoing. I think we're at like day number 39 or day 40. And you have the DHS folks. They are the ones that are still currently unemployed. So your TSA folks, FEMA, ICE is still getting paid though, okay? But you have those folks at TSA not getting paid, FEMA, and all of that, right? So there was a bipartisan agreement, if you will, to try to get the government back open. But Trump told the Republicans to not do any deals, okay? The last time I checked, he said that he might change his mind, So you have people out here who haven't been paid in a month and they got to feed their families. They got kids, they got daycare, they got bills. And from what I heard from a person who did an interview, they're getting eviction notices, things of that nature, right? As of this morning, 450 people approximately have quit their job at TSA. 450. So even when they get their back pay, you still won't have enough people probably to keep the TSA mission working. Now you do have the option of probably, getting rid of TSA and possibly having it be done by a private company. I don't know if they ever thought about that or not, but I mean, they need to figure out how to keep the government funded, okay? Especially when you have your TSA folks. These are people that are providing safety checks for us, if you will, like the air traffic controller, who made that bad call, if you will, when it came to what happened out at LaGuardia the other day. He said online, as you guys heard, he messed up. The air traffic controllers are already understaffed anyway. But then on top of that, you're not paying these folks consistently. That's ridiculous. Okay. So let's go ahead and see what Trump has to say about this proposed government shutdown deal.
Welcome back. As we've been talking about, security lines are growing at airports across the country, but President Trump says that Republicans shouldn't make any deal to end the DHS shutdown unless Congress passes the Save America Act, which is the Republicans' voter ID bill. Take a listen.
I'm suggesting strongly to the Republican Party, don't make any deal on anything. The most important thing we can have is what's called the Save America Act. Don't make any deal on anything unless you include voter ID. Republicans do not settle with Democrats and let them out of this hole that they've buried themselves in.
Well, President Trump says the bill should also include provisions that aren't in the current bill, including a ban on mail-in voting, a ban on biological men and women's sports, and a ban on transition surgeries for transgender minors. NBC News has learned that this weekend, President Trump rejected a plan to fund all of the Department of Homeland Security, except for ICE, which would reopen TSA and bring an end to the chaos at airports. Now, according to those sources, the off-ramp was presented to the president by Majority Leader Thune and supported by numerous Republicans. Joining me now to talk more about this is senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor. So there's a lot of moving parts to this story, but it's seemingly only getting more complicated, Sahil, now that the president is tying this to DHS funding negotiations. I have to imagine that this is just not a road that Senate Republicans are interested in going down.
Yeah, that's right, Ryan. The dynamic on DHS funding is looking worse today than it was a few days ago. And the turning point was a presidential Truth Social post last night, which I'll get to. But in recent days, there was an off-ramp that was floated between Republicans. It was kind of batted around between Senate Republicans, including Republican aides here, and the White House. It was presented to Trump. It was presented to John Thune, the majority leader. Essentially, what it would do is it would have Republicans take Democrats up on their offer to fund the non-controversial parts of DHS, with TSA being at the top of that list, and to save ICE and immigration funding, which is the controversial piece, for a separate filibuster-proof budget reconciliation bill that the GOP could pass without any Democratic votes. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, a proponent of this idea, he explained it on the Senate floor. Let's play that.
We can be out of this shutdown by the end of the week. Here's what we do. The Democrats are amenable to opening up everything at DHS but ICE. I think we should accept that. The very next day, we should file a budget resolution to reconciliation that funds ICE as we deem appropriate. We don't need Democratic votes to do that.
This would be a tough thing for Democrats to turn down if Republicans did, in fact, put it on the floor, Ryan. But it's not going to happen, it seems, because President Trump emphatically rejected it in a Truth Social post last night and doubled down on those comments today, not only saying that Republicans should cut no deal with Democrats on DHS, but they should wait until the Save America Act passes the Senate. That is not going to happen, as we've spoken about many times here. The votes aren't there to get to 60. Republicans don't have the votes to sustain a talking filibuster. They don't have the votes to nuke the filibuster, but they're still going through the stages of grief, so to speak, before they get to acceptance on that. So that's where we are. There's no path at this moment for either DHS funding or the SAVE Act, Ryan.
So, I mean, Senate Republicans have an option here, don't they, Sahil? They could just put it on the floor, whether or not the president likes it or not, and pass it, and then put the ball in the president's court. Is there any chance that they would be willing to do that?
Very unlikely, Ryan, because they would have to get to a veto-proof majority to override a presidential signature. That is not something that a road that Republicans like to travel. They generally like to work in tandem with the White House rather than get crosswise with the president. Very, very rare instances. The only one I can think of recently was the Epstein Files Transparency Act, where they kind of muscled Trump into supporting a bill that he didn't want to support. No evidence that that's happening here.
They are a co-equal branch of government. It's important for us to remind them of that from time to time. Sahil Kapoor, thank you for that.
Okay, so you guys heard what they're saying, that even if they do come up with a bipartisan bill to get DHS funded, that Trump can still sit there and veto it. So typically, the Republicans want to ensure that they have Trump support in wherever they're going to move forward. Okay, and he was very adamant about him not signing any bill unless the America Save Act was included, which is kind of doesn't pertain at all, in my opinion, to DHS. Okay, what do we have here? We have Bull Monkey saying, how long since they last been paid? I would say at least 2 to 3 weeks, because the shutdown is going on 40 days, and depending on if they were shut down during the pay week or not, they have at least missed one check at the minimum. So we got Chris Romero saying, great to be back. Welcome back to the check-in, Mr. Chris Romero. Glad that you're here. We have Camp Crusty here saying, Americans wonder why they are the laughing stock of the world. I highly doubt if anybody wondered about that. We all sitting here in disbelief as to what's going on, sir. But I'm glad that you're here. Okay. So we have Lord, you know it here saying, where them fans at? Thank you for being here as well. Bull Monkey is saying Trump is a puppet. It ain't gonna be Trump's family. Elon's very quiet lately. The last thing I saw from Elon is that he was offering to I guess to pay the TSA folks and whatnot. So he offered to do that. I don't know if Trump is going to take him up on that, because you remember during the shutdown back in October 2025, a person donated money to pay the military, which I didn't think that could be done. But guess what? They did it though, right? So we have that going on. And let's see, we have some more folks interested in getting the government back open and with another potential deal. So let's see what they're talking about. Let's get into it.
Lawmakers are closing in on a plan to end the month-long partial shutdown that has dramatically affected security lines at our nation's airports. But reforms to DHS may have to come at a later time. D.C. Bureau reporter Ross Ketchke explains.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Secretary.
Tonight, Markwayne Mullin sworn in as the new Secretary of Homeland Security.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for this opportunity. I won't let you down.
Mullin is taking the reins at DHS with the department locked in a government shutdown. The lapse in funding leading to hours-long security lines at U.S. airports. President Trump now sending in ICE agents to help with security after missed paychecks caused more than 450 TSA workers to walk away from the job.
We'll never catch up on our bills. We already live paycheck to paycheck.
It is time to end this.
But there are some signs of progress on Capitol Hill.
It sounds like the more and more R's are saying that they want to take yes for an answer. And
Republicans and Democrats appear to be closing in on a two-part deal to end the shutdown. Step one, funding all the DHS except ICE enforcement. That will get TSA agents paid and fully equip agencies like FEMA and the Coast Guard. But Democrats say they still need to see Republicans commit to some reforms for immigration enforcement.
I'd like us to get some reforms that mean we don't have roving bands of masked, unnamed agents grabbing people off the street or policing sensitive spaces.
And step two, Republicans draft a separate bill to pay for ICE operations and potentially tack on elements of President Trump's sweeping election reform bill like mandatory voter ID, all while using a process to pass the Senate without needing any Democratic support.
If that's what it takes to get some of these things across the finish line, and we can do it with simple majorities, we'll take a hard look at that.
And also tonight, we are learning that Democrats have now given the Republicans their latest counter-proposal. But even if things continue to move in this direction in the Senate, there's no guarantee that the House will pass the deal that the senators come up with. Louis, that's all to say we have seen a lot of progress in these negotiations in the last 24 hours, but things are far from a done deal.
And Ross, the other key player in all this is the president. Has he given any indication if he'd support this deal to end the shutdown?
Well, just a few hours ago in the Oval Office, President Trump did pour some cold water on the state of these negotiations. He said he personally would likely not be happy with pretty much anything that the Senate comes up with at this point. That does leave the door open for him to potentially essentially give the thumbs down and kill any deal the Senate were to come up with, because he will have that veto power over anything that the Senate does pass here. If that is a move the president chooses to do, it would likely bring these negotiations back to square one and leave us stuck still in that government shutdown.
Okay, so they're trying to make some efforts to get the government back open, but as you heard, Trump is not going to be satisfied until, that Save America Act is included and moved forward, which honestly, y'all, I didn't know that ID wasn't required to go vote. And I'm thinking to myself, I done voted a few times in my, in my life. And I don't know why I assumed that I had to provide at least an ID of some kind. I provide some type of documentation, I thought. But I could be wrong, y'all. Apparently I must be if we got a whole act being put in place. But yeah, so speaking of that, we mentioned yesterday that Mr. Markwayne Mullin was sworn in as DHS. So I thought it was interesting at the number of votes he got in support of that. So let's get into that real quick.
Mr. President.
Senator from Oklahoma.
I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the confirmation vote for Senator Markwayne Mullin to be the Secretary of Homeland Security right now.
Without objection. The question occurs on a nomination. Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks, Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Moran, aye. Mrs. Blackburn, aye. Mr. Schiff, no. Mr. Kim, no. Mrs. Capito, aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 54, the nays are 45. The nomination of Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma to be Secretary of Homeland Security is confirmed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made, laid upon the table. The President will be immediately notified of the Senate's action. I will never forget, multiple years ago, my wife,
yes,
Markwayne, and his
no.
wife, Christy, the four of us sitting down for a dinner in a quiet place, in a booth in the middle of a restaurant, just to talk. Because Markwayne was thinking about saying, I'm done with all of this chaos that's in Congress. And he was actually praying through what to do next. And it was over that dinner that the four of us just talked and visited, prayed together, and he determined I'm going to stay at it because there's more work to be done. And I'm glad he did.
Okay.
In the days ahead, the nation will be glad that he did, because I think he'll make a fantastic Secretary of Homeland Security.
Well, we're going to see what he does as the
Well, now at 9, the
Secretary of
Department of
Homeland Security. And we're going to also see how he's going to, come in and transform DHS. I mean, you're coming into a position where everybody not getting paid for the most part. And your predecessor had a lot going on. She left him with a mess, okay? So I'm interested to see what Mr. What's his name? Markwayne, what he's going to do with DHS. Yeah, we'll keep in touch with that. We'll stay on that. Now, did you guys know that some certain airlines provide like travel perks to the Congress people? So you have people out of work right now. Well, they're not out of work, they're not getting paid. TSA not getting paid. Okay. And you have folks that are in Congress getting paid, number one. And also they get to skip like TSA and things like that. I never knew. So Delta has said, you know what? While we have all this going on with this government shutdown, we're going to suspend the perks that the congressmen receive from being in their position. Okay? So let's check that out. That's insane.
Homeland Security, well, funding has been shut off since Valentine's Day, and that means TSA agents have not been paid in more than a month.
As we've been showing you, it has led to call-outs and chaos at the nation's airports, including here in Atlanta. There was a promising development today. Senate Republicans say they reached a deal to fund the DHS except for a small portion of the immigration enforcement, which is a concession to Democrats. If Democrats go along with that, funding for TSA would resume, bringing relief to commercial air travel.
Yeah, in the meantime, Atlanta-based Delta Airlines putting its own pressure on lawmakers to reach a deal. Atlanta News First, Bridget Spencer is live from Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. And Bridget, first of all, how are the lines looking tonight?
Well, Tracy, Blair, some good news to report. We are seeing significant progress. Things are pretty much smooth sailing here in the main checkpoint. You wouldn't believe it if you looked at the photos and the videos from yesterday. But that doesn't mean it will stay quiet like this. Not only travelers are getting angry about the shutdown, but also the airlines like Delta are speaking out on it. Things were quiet at TSA checkpoints at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International on Tuesday. A far cry from what we saw the past few days.
It was unbelievable to see the lines outside of the airport.
Atlanta's airport is one of the many major airports that saw complete chaos at TSA checkpoints, all due to staffing shortages with the partial government shutdown.
What we experienced this past weekend was 4 hours in Hartsfield Atlanta Airport, which was just an atrocity.
Hartsfield-Jackson is seeing a TSA call-out rate of nearly 40%. Delta Airlines putting pressure on lawmakers, stopping Congressmember perks for now. These perks included services like airport escorts and red coat services.
They should, yes, very fair. They should do it all the time, though, not just this time.
Leslie Lumpkins disagrees and thinks travel needs to be seamless for lawmakers.
Our elected officials need to be protected. They need to travel because they need to represent us.
In a video statement, Senator Raphael Warnock spoke on the stalemate between the parties.
Everybody agrees that we ought to fund the TSA workers. They don't ask us, are we Democrats or Republicans? They keep us safe every single day.
Travelers are just hoping the two parties can come together and do the right thing.
A lot of people, two paychecks away from being homeless. So these people are out here and they're missing paychecks. What happens if you miss the paycheck?
Now, on a typical day, you can go on the TSA wait times website online, and it'll tell you just how many minutes you have to wait. But here it's saying get here at least 4 hours before your flight. Now, although things are quiet today, I would try not to be fooled by this. You never know, as you've been seeing over the past couple of days. Delta also announcing that they have some flexible ticketing options for travelers stuck in all of this. We're live from Atlanta's airport. Bridget Spencer, Atlanta News First.
I told you guys on Monday when I was traveling through Atlanta to come back home that they did have lines out the door that morning, but by the time I got there around 2 p.m., they were a little bit more manageable. Regular TSA was still pretty full. And so was TSA pre-check, but it was moving us out pretty fast. So from the end of the line to me putting my things on the conveyor belt was like 22 minutes. So I looked up with that, okay? So, yes, looked up with that, and I got to the airport super early. I got there at 2 for a flight leaving at like 10:45 p.m. because I saw that morning where people were in line for 4 hours just to get from the outside to the inside pass baggage claim. And they still were not in the roped off area yet, going through that little maze. So I wasn't playing around with these folks. I met a person who missed their flight because they were in the TSA line for several hours. Had to buy a whole other ticket. But it's just insane. And they've had all these call outs. A lot of the different a lot of different airport staffs for TSA, they are banding together to all call out together. You have more punch with numbers, right? So like I think the numbers I heard was like maybe 30% call out rate for TSA right now. And like I mentioned, 450 people have quit working for TSA because they can't afford to not get paid. You got to still go to work. You still got to pay for gas, wear and tear on your vehicle, things like that. And you don't have no money coming in. So that's kind of interesting, right? A little bit ridiculous. Now we have Bull Monkey here that said earlier that regarding voting, the UK maintains the illusion that voting is anonymous, but since the voter slip is given with a number on it and it cross-checks to the electoral register, it is anything but anonymous. So I did not know that, y'all. We got Sweet Chili here. I'm glad that you're doing well and you could join today. I was wondering about you earlier because I hadn't seen you in about a week ish. Um, we have Sweet Chili saying, just pay them. You have money for wars. Who got money for wars? I definitely don't. We got Bull Monkey saying, laugh out loud for hours. Yes, that was on the light end. It was actually longer than that for some folks. Sweet Chili says, you lucky you still have an airport. Thank you. You are so right. We still have an airport at the moment. You are right. We have Christopher Morrow saying, how do you spend your time with all that extra time? I end up going live for about 10 minutes. And then I was working on some editing videos, things like that. Then I went and had something to eat at a restaurant. And that was kind of what I did for that time. Edited videos, went live, had me a little something to eat, and went and caught the plane. My plane left a little bit late. I did not get home until like 3 a.m. on yesterday. So yeah. So we have Sergio, welcome to the check-in, saying Trump can afford to pay them for a month, but doesn't he? I mean, people here have had the same comments about, okay, well, if you have the money to pay for $1 billion a day war, like, what about healthcare? So you have people here that are having the same type of thoughts that you guys are having as well, okay? So yeah, interesting, right? But you know, so I want you guys to hear what some other folks had to say about this government, about these perks for the Congress people, because I was not alone in not knowing that they receive perks for being in Congress. Um, let's get into it. Crazy.
Did you see this? Delta Airlines announcing Tuesday that they will be suspending dedicated flight assistance for members of Congress as airports grapple with long security lines and a frustrated TSA workforce amid the DHS shutdown. The airline announced that it would suspend airport escorts for members of Congress, as well as its Red Coat services, specialty customer service agents that deal with more complex flight issues. The airline did say that its dedicated reservation line for Congress will remain open.
That decision comes after the Senate approved a proposal to end preferential treatment for lawmakers at airports, including allowing them to skip security checkpoints. But the news that Congress received special treatment at all seemed to rub some the wrong way. Florida Voice News' Eric Dougherty writing on X, in part, good, abolish all special treatment for Congress. They should get zero benefits, wait in the same lines, get the same customer service. And conservative commentator Sanjay Narayan urging Delta to keep those changes, writing, Delta should permanently eliminate this. We'd never have another shutdown again. As an intern on Capitol Hill, I frequently saw senators waltz right through security and avoid the lines everyone else waited in. That's separate treatment is toxic.
Meantime, Delta CEO Ed Bastian joined 9 other aviation CEOs in an open letter to Congress urging lawmakers to make a deal. Take a listen to what he had to say on Squawk Box yesterday.
Now, this is a size medium, 5 for 5, okay? All right, now let's get into the details. It has a snap and...
It's inexcusable that our security agents, our frontline agents that are central to what we do, are not being paid. And it's ridiculous to see them being used as political chips. So, we're outraged. And if there's a call to action here, and I think over 90% of the American public support those people getting paid, ask our folks right here in Washington to do their job, get our people paid. They can do it.
Amen, brother. He's exactly right. Good for stripping of those special perks. I'm not sure they should have ever had those special perks to begin with. I wasn't aware of them. But yes, absolutely. Take that away while they've taken this away for us. We should vote. I support voting on this any which way. But this can't go on. This is ridiculous. They should immediately approve funding to TSA. I know Democrats want to fight about ICE, but we can't make people live like this because you oppose. We can keep fighting about ICE. They cannot fund the rest of it, but we have to fund the TSA immediately. And then again, long term, my solution would be to abolish it entirely or replace it with private security. But right now, the law says you have to have these security measures in place. We need to pay the people who do it. There's no reasonable expectation that they should work without getting paid. No one has to work and not get paid. So I don't, I'm not having any problem with what the TSA agent, it's not their fault. This is Congress's fault. Get the money and get it going again. You are making people miserable. You're raising prices. It's bad. It's bad. People are going to drive instead of fly, and more people are going to die because of this.
Wow.
It's true.
I was blown away to find out that Congress was getting this special treatment. I was literally floored, and I saw this is the
TSA pre-check and
probably for free
together.
And you know what? Because they just walk past and mosey past everyone, so they're not even dealing with these 4-hour lines. And Katie Miller, who I rarely agree with, tweeted something, and I was like, she has a point. She's like, why is Congress getting special treatment with no waiting line, no change fee? Meanwhile, the average American is being bullied by these airlines. And I'm like, listen, that's exactly what it is. Like, people are being bullied by sitting in line for 5 hours. People are being bullied that work for TSA that are expected to pay for things like their children's education or groceries with no paycheck whatsoever. You have to be one of the best savers in the world for a country that lives largely paycheck to paycheck to be able to afford a month of no pay without any planning. Like, this is absurd. And yes, we agree on the finish line to try to figure out how to open this government back up. But I also agree on the forethought that the Congress should not have waited this long to figure out the government was about to shut down to solve this issue. And so there needs to be some conversation had. Accountability needs to be on Democrats to try to figure out where they can negotiate, which points they can negotiate on, but also to the president to stop telling Republicans to not negotiate and stop adding things like the SAVE Act into a bill that, is directly not tied to funding TSA, DHS, and everything that they're fighting over right now. Allow them to be two separate bills and figure out if they're going to split this one apart to fund FEMA and TSA, or do it all together, but no more days should pass. This is absurd. And if something happens, like I was worried that this news story came out yesterday and then something happens overnight, that Congress got so riled up about their personal life being affected that they do something. And that to me would be so disconnected to the Americans that it would be even worse than if they still were negotiating.
Let's just vote on TSA. Democrats don't want to do that.
Democrats did push that forward, and Republicans shut it down. They said they're not just voting on that. And so
just vote on TSA.
That's what they asked for. They literally said, let's just split this apart. And Republicans were like, we're not tearing this all apart in pieces. And now you see people like Lisa Murkowski, John Thune, that are like, we might have to we can vote on everything besides DHS, besides ICE funding. Let's just vote on there's a lot in that bill, right? You know, there's CISA, there's FEMA, there's TSA. So a lot of agencies are going without pay right now. And so they're like, how about we do everything else besides DHS right now? And that's fine.
What I think.
Democrats are like, let's just do TSA right now. Let's do TSA and FEMA. Whatever they want to do, just maybe the best solution is to put the ICE funding to the side for a second. It's already funded through the big, beautiful bill. It's going to be funded. Nothing's stopping ICE operations right now. And let's just figure out how to open up the airport security properly, because as somebody who just experienced it Monday, it's very chaotic.
Okay. So let me see what you guys are saying here in the chat. I done got sidetracked here. So we got Corn 1999. Welcome to the check-in, saying, why does Congress get so many benefits anyway? I did not know they were getting all those benefits, to be honest with you. So I'm learning a lot in this process here. That we have let's see, Bull Monkey saying, where did he go? How much for ICE? I'm not sure what they get, but I know they were doing some type of bonus for folks to join ICE not too long ago. We have David Smith, welcome to the check-in, saying Republicans should never negotiate with terrorists. Okay. Then we have Rob Davidson saying, you saw in the State of the Union that Democrats would not stand when asked if they were there to help the American citizens. They are more concerned with illegal immigrants than American citizens. Yes, I did see that. They did not stand. I did see that. We have Chris Sims, 9004. Welcome. Saying Congress is shut down again for 2 weeks. They haven't worked a full month since October 2025. They have been shut down since February the 14th. This is the third shutdown since October 1st. You had the one from October to November, a shutdown for like 2 days back in January, where they funded the rest of the government, but only funded DHS for like 2 weeks. And now you have this one going on right here. So then we have Jack of all trades, welcome, saying, I'm thinking when there's a government shutdown and people don't get paid, Congress and senators shouldn't be paid. Both sides would quit playing with people's lives. And I believe that the senator out of Louisiana, I think he's trying to get it set up to where they don't get paid during shutdowns. But I could be wrong, but I think I remember seeing that the other day. Sergio is saying she was telling the truth. Yes. So next up, y'all, I don't know if you guys heard, but a gentleman by the name of Mueller passed away. He was like 81 years of age. And Trump was like, he was glad the man was dead. So let's get into that. Interesting.
I want to bring you some breaking news here on Live Now from Fox. We've just got this confirmed according to the Associated Press. You may recognize this face here. This is Robert Mueller III. He is now pronounced dead at the age of 81. And so this information just coming into our newsroom a short time ago. Robert Mueller III, though, was the FBI director who transformed the nation's premier law enforcement agency into a terrorism fighting force. This came after the September 11th 2001 attacks. He later became a special counsel in charge of investigating ties between Russia and President Trump's presidential campaign. He has now died at the age of 81. His family has released a statement saying this: with deep sadness, we are sharing the news that Bob passed away. His family now asks that their privacy be respected. At the FBI, Mueller set out almost immediately, overhauling the Bureau's mission to meet the law enforcement needs of the 21st century, beginning his 12-year tenure just 1 week before the September 11th attacks. He ended up serving across several presidents of both political parties. He was nominated by Republican President George W. Bush. Of course, we do know that cataclysmic event of September 11th eventually switched the Bureau's top priority from solving domestic crime to preventing terrorism, a shift that imposed almost impossibly difficult standard on Mueller and the rest of the federal government, preventing 99 out of 100 terrorist plots, saying that wasn't good enough. Later, though, he did act as the special counsel in the Justice Department investigation into whether the Trump campaign illegally coordinated with Russia to sway the outcome of the 2016 presidential race. We do also know that President Trump has also spoken out on his social media as well. President Trump saying this, quote, "Robert Mueller just died. Good, I'm glad he's gone." The Republican president then added, he can no longer hurt innocent people. We do know at this time that that not only the president, I'm going to put up this live vantage point that we have there of the White House. The president put that statement out on social media, but also the FBI at this time has not officially said anything in response to any comment that was put out by once the Associated Press has asked. But this is a statement on Truth Social from President Trump on Robert Mueller. Wanted to make sure we're able to bring you that breaking update here on.
So y'all, do you guys think that that was appropriate or good for him to say that he was glad that person died? What do you guys think about that? Like, I mean, there have been people that I have known that have passed away that have tried to harm me professionally, and I was kind of indifferent to, the passing. But I mean, I don't think I didn't say, oh well, I'm glad they're dead. Like, I didn't go there. Okay, I didn't go there, y'all. But I guess Trump said that they cost him a lot of money, a lot of humiliation, if you will, invading his privacy. So he said what he said. So, yeah, I don't think that it's the right thing to do. But I guess he had his reasons, honey. So let me know in the poll what you guys think, or in the chat. Bull Monkey is saying very crass. I agree. Very crass. So I'm sure you guys heard about the young lady that went to Loyola University that was unalived by an illegal immigrant. So that has kind of sparked conversations again about the whole illegal immigrants here in the United States. And of course, Trump is going to speak about Sleepy Joe in this at some point, right? So let's get into what happened with this Miss Gorman. Very sad.
Suspect now charged in the murder of a freshman at Loyola University. NBC5's Courtney Siss joins us live from Rogers Park right now with what was revealed today in court. Courtney?
Hi, Allison. 25-year-old Jose Medina. He's a migrant from Venezuela and is charged with first-degree murder in her death. He was actually in the hospital today, not in the courtroom, because we're told he has tuberculosis. But we still learned much more about what unfolded during this tragedy.
What she needs is justice, and what he needs is to be held accountable.
Comptroller Susana Mendoza says she was horrified in court today, learning more about the shooting that left Loyola University student Sheridan Gorman dead.
I don't think anyone with a rational common sense would say that he's anything other than a terrible risk to society.
Police arrested Jose Medina, an undocumented Venezuelan migrant, for the crime. They say he was hiding at the end of the pier near Toby Prince Beach Park. Gorman and her friends were walking along the pier to see the skyline and potentially the northern lights. Prosecutors say Medina came out from behind the lighthouse and shot and killed Gorman. Her friends ran and hid. They say security video tracked him back to his apartment, where a building engineer identified him to police. Inside, they found a .40 caliber handgun matching the bullets to the one that killed Gorman. Records show he had a misdemeanor charge in 2023 for shoplifting and never showed for court. A warrant was issued for his arrest.
When you have individuals who choose to engage in dangerous criminal behavior here in this country,
If they are non-citizens, we should not give them welcome. We should not give them sanctuary.
Alderman Raymond Lopez hopes this will spark change in the city. DHS launched a detainer request asking Illinois officials to not release him. Governor Pritzker said in part, violent crime has no place in our streets, and we expect the alleged perpetrator to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. The Trump administration needs to stop politicizing heinous tragedies. And Gorman's family says we are gravely disappointed by the policies and failures that allowed this individual to remain in a position to commit this crime. When systems fail, whether through release decisions, lack of coordination, or unwillingness to act, the consequences are not abstract, they are real, and in our case, they are permanent.
Allowing him to go back out has not curtailed his illegal behavior, and now someone is dead as a result of it.
And because of his hospital stay right now and his illness, the full detention hearing is delayed until Friday. Stefan?
Okay. That is just so sad that this person was hiding out and attacked that young lady. And I mean, what was the reason? I mean, there's never going to be a sufficient reason for that, but like why did he do this to this young lady? Like why? And this is a case, in my opinion, where someone is here undocumented and they have a record and whatnot, they need to be removed. Like I remember we were talking about how the person did the mass shooting out in I think it was it Austin, or was it the one that took place at Old Dominion? But either case, in one of the most recent attacks, the person had been in jail for similar, for similar activity, released back into the United States, going unchecked. Those are people who need to be sent on back home to where they come from. I'm just gonna put it out there, y'all. Send them on back. Now we're gonna talk here about of course, with her having this unfortunate situation of being unalive, it's going to be politicized between the Democrats and the Republicans, right? Because why not, right? So let's go ahead and get into what Senator Booker and what Senator Hormuz had to say about this ordeal.
An illegal from Venezuela has been arrested with connection with the murder of an 18-year-old Sheridan Gorman, who was a freshman at Loyola University in Chicago. He was shot and killed on Thursday. Yet another example of another heinous violent crime, allegedly, in this case, committed by another Biden-Harris Mayorkas illegal, who they released into the country in May of 2023. And even worse, in June of 23, just over a month after coming into the country illegally, he was arrested for shoplifting in Chicago. But guess what? He was released back into the city. Now, of course, while he did condemn the crime and call for accountability for the perpetrator, in a statement to Fox News, Illinois wannabe President Governor J.B. Pritzker made no mention of the public safety threat that his state's sanctuary status has caused. And instead, he attacked President Trump, accused him of politicizing the murder that never should have happened. Meanwhile, ICE agents began deployment to airports, as we told you, all across the country today, and prompted a predictable meltdown from the left. Here's Cory Booker, always predictable. Take a look.
And so what's happening today in America that should outrage everybody? He's taking the very same agency that has been bursting into our schools, into our churches, into our hospitals, into our courts, and even into the homes of Americans. He's taking that agency that is reckless and out of control and bringing them to our airports under the lie that somehow this is going to help deal with the long lines that he created in the first place. This is an outrage.
Predictable meltdown. Anyway, temper tantrum. Here with Reaction Board czar Tom Homan is with us. Is he referring to the brave agents that are arresting murderers, known terrorists, child molesters, other violent criminals, drug cartel members? Are those the agents he's talking about? Because I think he's got to ass backwards as usual.
Well, apparently, because that's exactly what ICE is doing. They're arresting the worst of the worst and making his state and his cities safer, because we're taking a lot of public safety threats off the street. But I want to say one thing. He's misleading the American people. He's lying. Now, I want him to give me one example, just one, when ISIS went into a church to arrest somebody, or we went into a hospital to arrest somebody, or we went into an elementary school to arrest somebody. Just give me one example You know why? He can't, because there isn't any. Now, I think there's been one case nationwide in the past year where we're in hot pursuit chasing an illegal alien who ran into an education center. You're damn right. We went in there and arrested him near the front door. But as far as planned enforcement operations in those places, hasn't happened. Matter of fact, the only people that violated the sanctuary of the church was Don Lemon and that group that went in there to attack, Trump supporters while they were having a religious service. So he's misleading the American people, and that is part of the hatred toward ICE agents that's driving the violence. You mentioned before 8,000% increase in threats. Because of things that people say like that are untrue, it causes a hate to rise, which is, of course, going to end in more violence, more bloodshed.
You know, you look at where we are, the most preventable national security disaster in the history of this country. Now, after 5 votes in the Senate that they wouldn't fund the Department of Homeland Security, now they want partial funding. But here are the restrictions. They won't fund ICE, and they will insist that ICE agents cannot wear a mask. After the threat level is up 8,000%, after these guys have been attacked, after they have been doxxed, I mean, I don't like that idea at all. I don't think it's safe for them.
And it's not going to happen, not as long as I'm here. I mean, the men and women of ICE, not only are they being doxxed, their spouses and children are being doxxed. I know that from my firsthand experience. So, they're going to wear masks as long as they're doing, these operations in the street looking for the bad guy. I mean, once the hatred stops, once people like Cory Booker stop saying the things he's saying, maybe the hate will reduce. Then maybe we can think about the masks. But these officers' identification, they have badges and badge numbers. Border Patrol has their last name on uniform. You want to know who these people are? You can find out who these people are, but we're not going to stop doing this job. We're not going to. They want ICE not to operate in sensitive locations. Here's what I said from day one: there is no sanctuary. There is no safe zone for significant public safety threats and national security threats. Those are the people we need to arrest and deport from the country, and we're going to keep doing it.
Let's talk about this Venezuelan illegal who had been caught and released by the Biden administration. I mean, what can you ever say to the family? I think there were 2 telling moments. A little over a year ago when the Democrats wouldn't stand for Laken Riley's family or Jocelyn Nungary's family. Then when the president said, if you agree with this statement, please stand with us in the State of the Union address, that American safety is more important. Our first duty is to protect Americans over illegals. That is a pretty simple thing to stand up for, but they didn't stand. How do you interpret that?
They hate Trump more than they love their communities. They hate Trump more than they take the safety and security of our communities. Look, it's just another one. And I've been fighting sanctuary cities for 10 years. I have met hundreds of angel moms and dads who buried their children because their children were killed by an illegal alien. And I can't tell you how many young women just in the past couple of years would be alive today. Whether it's Rachel Morin or whether it's, Laken Riley, whether it's just young lady. If they would simply just work with ICE, if their law enforcement would work with ICE when they arrest illegal aliens for crimes, we could save countless lives in this country. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
DHS funding is interconnected. The president is correct. To the SAVE Act. What does the SAVE Act require? Proof of citizenship and voter ID. Why would any elected official be against that? You need voter ID to get into their convention every 4 years. Or you need picture ID.
Why would any member of Congress, why would any member of Congress defund the Transportation Security Administration that protects our skies? Why would they defund Coast Guard? Why would they defund CISA against cyber attacks? Why would they defund FEMA? I mean, you're talking about not funding the Department of Homeland Security, which is their #1 responsibility as a representative in Congress to protect this country. And they're voting not to protect this country. And look, Donald Trump made a brilliant move this week, and he called me and says, let's send ICE to the airport. I thought it was a smart move. And we're filling the holes. The wait lines are already dropped. Plus, we're doing a security function at the airports. We're going to arrest criminals going through this airport. We're going to look for human trafficking, sex trafficking, money smuggling. We're going to be at the airports working with our brothers and sisters of TSA. They're our brothers and sisters within DHS. President Trump made a smart move. We're going to keep the airplanes flying. We're going to get the American people through those lines quicker, and we're not going to give up President Trump's promise to American people to make this country safer every day, and that's what we're going to keep doing.
Tom Homan, we're grateful for you and all these guys that put their lives on the line to get the worst of the worst. We appreciate you being with us. Here with more.
Let me write this down here. I'm getting educated in the chat about Tom Homan doing a 50K FBI bribe. I'll be looking this up, y'all. Thank you guys for the education on that, okay? So we have Tyler Kostov. Welcome to the check-in. Saying, why are you so interested in these fair-skinned men skinhead gossiping? Because that's how I get to meet you, Tyler. Yes. That's how I get to meet you, sir. Welcome to the check-in. Okay. We have Joe Barinska here saying Tom Homer is a worthless Stephen pile of poop, and whoever lied about the SAFE Act can go blank himself. It's the GQP blocking funding. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, y'all. So we're gonna switch gears a little bit. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but it must be real. It must be real. What's the word? Real tight out there now, okay? Because a group of people went to a restaurant, and when it came time to split the bill, somebody got stabbed. Let's get into it.
Mr. President,
Senator from Oklahoma.
Uh-oh.
I ask you now.
I need to switch the video. Sorry about that.
Several people are recovering from stab wounds this morning following a brawl at a downtown LA restaurant.
Gigi Graciette is there with more on what started the fight. Gigi.
And that's right. According to law enforcement sources, both the suspects and the victims, well, they were all friends. Actually, some of them may even be related to each other. Take a look. Video shared on Citizen app showed quite a large response by police and paramedics, with multiple victims down in different locations. And then there was the search for suspects and all of the bystanders who were watching the drama unfold at Zaya Restaurant on 7th in downtown L.A. This morning, we have exclusive new information about what happened as a private party was wrapping up. Servers brought the group their bill, and that's when sources say the fighting started. It was 4:40 in the afternoon. The all-girl group apparently disagreeing on something and began arguing with each other. Police confirm one of the women pulled out a knife while another one grabbed a bottle. The war of words quickly turning into a very dangerous fight. The fire department says 5 people were evaluated at the scene. 4 of them, all women, taken to the hospital, ages 26 to 37. All of them were stabbed, some with a knife, another with the bottle. The 5th victim, police are calling her Jane Doe. They don't know who she is because even though she had some serious cuts to her face, she decided to just leave. By early evening, police confirmed 2 suspects were arrested, and this morning those 2 suspects, both women, are behind bars facing assault with a deadly weapon charge. Bringing it back here live, we're told one of the suspects is apparently related to one of the victims who got stabbed. No word today if that bill ever got paid at the restaurant. Reporting live, I'm Gigi Grass.
I'm pretty sure that bill
Only on
probably
Fox
didn't get
11
paid.
tonight.
I'm sorry. I'm sure that bill didn't get paid at that restaurant. I just don't believe it. I just don't. We got Bull Monkey saying, seems there's 17% of trolls among us. Oh, okay. You looking at the results from that last poll where I said, do you think it's appropriate for someone to state it's good for someone to pass away? Y'all messed up that question, but work with me. 49% said no, 34% says of course not, and 17% said yes out of 47 votes. And yeah, boy, they said that it was appropriate. Okay, you see what's up time they on, okay? We got dudes 5594 here. Welcome. Saying all girls. Yes, at that restaurant, it was all women, all girls that got into a brawl over that bill. I really would like to know, well, how much was the check? How much was the check? Okay, I highly doubt if it got paid, but I would like to know what it was. Okay, now continuing on in our time for LA, they said, okay, Dubes says, why did they make a man pay for it? They ain't take no man with them. Dubes, it was all women. They didn't have a man there to pay the bill. And that's probably why he didn't come. But yeah, Sean, so I was telling you guys yesterday when we were talking about, the war and the $1 billion a day that they're paying for this war, how there's people in LA that are living in the sewer. Okay, and I told y'all I was going to talk about that tonight. So let's get into it, y'all. You ain't going to believe it.
Tonight, shocking and disturbing discovery in South Los Angeles. Some homeless now living underground inside the city's sewer system just to survive.
That's
Fox
crazy.
11's Matthew Sudorf joining us live after witnessing these conditions firsthand. Matthew.
Yeah, Christine, this is bad, and the area isn't safe either. We actually had to drive a few miles away just for safety reasons for this live shot. But the things we saw, we won't forget. An up-close, exclusive look underground at living conditions too extreme for words. It's hard to imagine someone living in there. Trash, human waste, and an overpowering stench. I gotta get back. Just moments earlier, we watched someone climb out of that storm drain using the sewer as shelter. Water and food? Her answers hard to understand. But the area, 88th and South Grand, overwhelmed with RVs, tents, and trash. Hello, yes. Juan Nala with nonprofit Clean LA with me was picking up garbage here Monday.
We got a lady living down there.
When he saw not one, but two people emerge from the storm drain.
I can't explain that. You know, a person living like a rat, worse than a rat. Come on.
Hello. And just 2 weeks ago, it happened again.
Someone is living in there.
Another street in South LA, another person living underground.
It's a human being. Why are we accepting this? Why? All the officials, they have to do something. They have to fix this problem.
It pisses me off. That's why I was like, what y'all doing? Finna tell them to clean it up?
Neighbors angry say they've reported the problems but feel ignored.
Like, we need John help. We need that money. The public here need that.
A shocking snapshot of survival at its lowest point.
This person doesn't deserve to live like this. Not even the neighbors.
So I just got a statement from the mayor's office about 5 minutes ago saying that this is tragic and unacceptable, and then they're going to be out there tomorrow offering resources and help and trying to clean up this area the best they can. Reporting live tonight, Matthew Sudorf.
Now, what I'm going to show you guys next is that they did go out there the next day, but I didn't see any resources being offered, okay? And these folks had to find somewhere else to go. So I don't know what the options are out there. I mean, you have people living in a sewer, y'all. So I don't know. They declared the spot a hazmat situation, okay? So let's go ahead and get into the latest on this situation.
Tonight, a follow-up to a story you saw first here on Fox 11, a homeless woman living in a storm drain in South LA. Well, tonight, that same drain is now a hazmat zone. Fox 11's Matthew Sudorf is back again tonight with new developments. Matthew.
Well, Christine, those sanitation workers left about 10 minutes ago, but I'll show you what was left behind. They were here for the better part of 5 hours. There's a massive cleanup effort. You can see the road out here is still wet. They have this massive rock now on top of that storm drain so no one else can sneak inside. A deep cleanup underway in South LA. Sanitation crews in hazmat gear sucking up human waste and trash from a storm drain, calling it a hot zone, keeping the public 100 feet back. This, the same drain where we first met a woman living underground. Water and food? After our exclusive report Monday, firefighters responded Tuesday. But the woman walked away with no clear help offered. The area flooded with tents, RVs, even a boat. No tickets, no enforcement as a street sweeper maneuvers through. Across the 110, open prostitution along Figueroa, long-standing complaints from neighbors.
It's probably like a little city or something down there. There's, yeah, people constantly just coming up and down.
So we're about 3 miles away where the homeless seem pretty plugged in. They've got a wire stretching down this street to an encampment over here. Can we talk to y'all for a minute?
They're resourceful.
People living on the street near 45th and Grand not talking.
They sell stuff.
While neighbors are too afraid to show their faces.
Retaliation, stuff like that, you never know.
A fire hydrant used for water and a utility box tapped for electricity.
Sometimes you see people pulling the copper.
How long have you been without streetlights?
About a couple of years.
All next to another storm drain also being used as shelter.
Just pop that lid and they go inside. I guess they got beds over there.
A spokesperson for Mayor Karen Bass telling Fox 11 those impacted are being offered resources, adding this is so tragic and is emblematic of the tough challenges that Mayor Bass is taking on that were ignored for decades. So many issues impacting this area. Mike will show you another one. You can see the streetlights are out here and over here, and it's kind of all over this general area. Again, right next to where that woman was living underneath the storm drain. Reporting live tonight in South LA, Matthew Seedorf, Fox.
Okay, y'all. So that was the update regarding the folks living in the sewers out in LA. Very sad. I hope they get the resources that they need to get out the situation. My goodness, y'all. But yes, yeah, we have people living in the sewer, as the man said, like rats, and as Bull Monkey saying, like the teenage mutant ninja turtles is what he put out here in the chat, y'all. So yeah, we can use our resources to help take care of folks here in the States, Now, we were talking about, TSA and ICE and all that. And so, with them having reduced staffing at the airport, they brought in ICE agents to help with some of the logistics, if you will. And at the San Francisco airport, they detained this woman. I'm not sure why she was detained or how she got spotted, but I guess when you have people at the airport, ICE is there, they may decide to still do what ICE does, right? So let's get into this lady, being removed in front of her child in this manner.
What is your name? Where's your badge number?
And this now viral video captured at San Francisco International Airport is raising concerns. The video shows a mother being detained by immigration agents last night with her young daughter nearby. Passers-by repeatedly asking the agents to identify themselves to no avail. State Senator Scott Wiener says that this does not appear to be the result of a roving patrol, nor were the agents deployed to assist with airport security. SFO uses a private security contractor instead of the TSA.
It was just horrible with a child there. It reminds me of what we saw in Minnesota with Liam Cornejo, that young kid with the bunny hat on, who was separated from his family and then ultimately deported.
Wiener is a Democrat. He warns ICE is not welcome in San Francisco or at the airport. Airport officials say this was an isolated incident and that federal officers were assisting two people on an outbound flight.
Okay. So they were assisting someone on an outbound flight, but then saw her and detained her at the airport. Y'all, we can't make this up. Now, moving on. Last night, Blue Monkey said I needed to go look into Afroman, okay? So I did. And I learned a lot about Afroman, all right, and his recent case that he did win, And so what I want you guys to see is what happened to Afroman and how he decided to take that situation. He turned lemons into lemon pound cake, okay? Let's get into it. Wait a minute. Bull Monkey says, in fact, why did they even mention some of the sewer people as prostitutes? They did mention that. I caught that. They just, I don't know, Bull Monkey. I feel like sometimes people say things that are not required, but they're trying to make a point. They're trying to push a narrative, if you will. So that's why I think they probably, mentioned the prostitution. I mean, who was doing that and you staying in a sewer? Okay. Let me not get on that. We're gonna get back to lemon pound cake. Like I said with Afro Man, when life gives you lemons, you do what? You make lemon pound cake. Let's get into it.
Famed American musician Afroman is on trial for what might take the cake as the most bizarre, high-profile court case of the year. The 51-year-old Because I Got High rapper, whose real name is Joseph Foreman, was sued by police, who were captured on surveillance video executing what would be an unsuccessful raid on his home in 2022. After Foreman turned the home security footage into satirical music videos, making fun of the officers storming his abode, that have garnered millions of views. The officers allege that the music videos invaded their constitutional privacy and was an intentional infliction of emotional distress. From Foreman's continued ruthless mocking of the police department to officers seen breaking down in tears in court, here's everything to know about the outlandish trial. On August 21, 2022, Joseph Foreman's Ohio home was raided by the Adams County Sheriff's Department, who was acting on a warrant asserting probable cause for narcotics being stored, as well as kidnappings taking place on the property. Officers can be seen storming Foreman's front gate, breaking down a door to his home, and searching his wardrobe. However, no evidence of criminal activity was found on the property, and no charges were filed. Within weeks, Foreman began publishing several music videos mocking the, quote, crooked Adams County police, seen rummaging through his home. One song titled Lemon Pound Cake was inspired by a now viral moment of one of the cops in the raid who was captured glancing at the sweet treat in the kitchen inside the home. According to Foreman, he only wanted to create the, quote, funny rap song to pay for what he says were significant damages from the raid. But in 2023, 4 deputies, 2 sergeants, and a detective with the sheriff's office filed suit against the rapper for using their image in the music videos, asserting that it constituted an invasion of privacy. The civil trial kicked off in March 2026, quickly producing several moments of drama in the already outlandish case. Afroman, who turned up to court wearing a red, white, and blue suit and matching sunglasses, clashed with Ohio law enforcement on March 16th and 17th over the videos, even leaving one deputy in tears as she took the stand. Lisa Phillips, an Adams County deputy sheriff, has been a target of Foreman's satire as he released several posts, including a 13-minute music video titled Lick 'em Low, Lisa, that featured highly suggestive innuendos directed at the official. As the video was played in court on March 16th, Phillips broke down sobbing. Foreman's defense team is arguing that he's protected by free speech laws. While on the stand, the rapper bluntly stated of the cops suing him that, quote, all of this is their fault.
If they hadn't wrongly raided my house, there would be no lawsuit. I would not know their names. They wouldn't be on my body. They wouldn't be on my home surveillance system. And there would be no songs, nothing. My money would still be intact, nothing. So all of this is their fault.
Foreman has seemingly not backed down from his antics, making several other videos and posts before and after the trial targeted at officers in the case, such as Randy Walters a son of a bitch and Sean grooming grooms, as well as repeatedly calling one of the officers a pedophile on social media. In a video published to his Instagram, Foreman delivered a firm message to police, vowing that he would not pay the officers for what he claims is their mistake.
I'm not paying you for making a mistake. I'm not paying you for vandalizing my house. I'm not paying you for being unapologetic and disrespectful when I asked you if you would help me with the damage. I'm not paying you for that.
Okay, so we got a little bit of the background on what happened with Afroman and in this situation with the local law enforcement. Okay, now we got a little bit of footage of what was being said at the trial. So I want to give a shout out to the creator. I don't know their name right now, but you'll see their name on the screen. He did a little bit of a breakdown of what was going on in the trial because one of the people who wasn't even a part of the raid had the nerve to be on the stand trying to get money out of Afroman, saying that he was forced to quit his job because of this situation. Okay, it's crazy, y'all. Like when I say this person was probably trying to was trying to make a come up on some money. Yes, a come up indeed. Let's get into it.
One of them is dipshit, one is receding hairline, and the other is meth heads.
Every bit of this was a lie, and you knew it.
Shouldn't have threw a fake raid. Shouldn't have threw a fake raid.
Just address disregard the court.
Ooh, look at that. Junior confronts Afroman in court. You're not allowed to do that, but who cares? This is fun.
I find that pretty insulting.
Receding hairline or dipshit.
I'm sorry?
How are you currently employed?
I'm not currently employed. Temporary living off some savings I had while I seek mental health treatment.
On the stand is Officer Poundcake's son, Poundcake Jr., and he's testifying at the trial claiming Afroman defamed him as well. Let's watch.
I was a police officer for approximately 10 years. I spent 5 of which out of state, another 5 with the Adams County Sheriff's Office.
Your father was also an Adams County deputy sheriff?
Correct.
What was that?
A lemon pound cake.
Mama's lemon pound cake.
You bet your ass his father's in the same department. He's the most famous cop in America, Officer Poundcake.
It's everywhere.
Yes.
He's in the courtroom.
Yes, he is.
Sean Cooley.
Yes.
Good morning, ladies. I want to thank everybody that bought the merchandise with the faces of the criminals camouflaged as law enforcement on them. These images taken from my home security camera will help expose the thieves and vandals disconnecting people's security camera, stealing their money, working for the Adams County Sheriff Department. Jumping down here, I use my footage of my property to raise money to pay for the damages they done and to identify the criminals operating inside of the Sheriff Department that stole my money. Next to Droopy, he can't perform his duties. This judge is suffering from mental stress because this judge wants me to stop posting pictures of him next to Droopy. Judge Roy Droopy Gabbard sent a hit squad to my house to kill me in front of my...
For some reason, Officer Poundcake Jr.'s attorney kept showing posts that had nothing to do with Officer Poundcake Jr. They don't mention him by name. They don't even mention him by face.
Kids, but I can't post a picture of him next to Droopy. He can take my life, but he can't take a joke.
The only one controlling the narrative, it felt like, was Mr. Foreman. You know, I didn't have the freedom of speech. I'm a police officer. It's not my place. This was never my case. This was never my place to make any statements, but I still experienced the rage. It enraged the community, and it got to the point that we were receiving death threats at work. It got to the point that my family felt unsafe. We would get a call that says, "Oh, I'm coming down there. I'm coming down to do whatever." It was a threatening call. And then we'd get a call about a tree down in a wildlife area, and we'd have to go. And I'm not going down there. I mean, this could be a setup. We were afraid. We were legitimately afraid that this was going to turn from what it was into something violent.
Junior testified earlier that he resigned from the force because of mental issues. He's trying to pin those mental issues to Afroman. However, it's clear there was something else going on in Junior's life that made him quit the force.
Because he used his position of power to spread a lie. You enrage the community. And you put me and my family in danger over this. Every bit of this was a lie, and you knew it.
Shouldn't have threw a fake raid. Shouldn't have threw a fake raid.
Ooh, look at that. Junior confronts Afroman in court. You're not allowed to do that, but who cares? This is fun.
Just address disregard the court statement. Yes, thank you, Judge. Did you receive any personal phone calls or comments about your perceived role in this warrant investigation?
I didn't receive any phone calls. I don't know if it was a podcast or a news agency. I quickly shut that down. It just became too much to handle. So I come in off vacation to deal with this, and because of the backlash, I began to hate that agency. I began to hate all these officers over here. This whole thing just turned my world upside down.
Well, look at that. There's some breaking news. Officer Poundcake's son admits he hates the officers in the Adams County Sheriff's Office.
From the beginning, I was a bystander, but I just could not escape the hate that it brought and just tore through this community. I lost family members that are now estranged over this. I've lost friends over this. This has been out of hand, and it has only ever been a lie.
Over what? It wasn't your house that was stormed by all these cops, breaking down the gate, breaking down the door, searching everywhere. You were the one doing the searching. Yeah, you had to come back from vacation, but it was Afroman that was suffering, not you.
Nobody's happy when your door gets kicked in. I've never had anybody thank me for kicking their door in. That's an ugly part of law enforcement.
Did you ultimately resign your position with Adams County?
I've resigned and I've let my commission expire.
You mentioned some mental health issues that you're dealing with, and I just want the jury to be clear.
But over time, this lie that continued, it was like acid. It eroded my resiliency. I got tired of explaining myself. I got tired of dealing with people's outrage because of this lie. I've never been but a bystander, caught a stray bullet. You know, I'm coming in on vacation. I've never met this man. I've never met him. Never heard his name. I had a mental breakdown. I had a surgery, and for about 5 months, I got to stay at home, get paid to stay at home, get to do all the things you want to do when you have the time. And when I returned to work, the hate was still there. My resiliency was gone.
Now we have the real issue. Junior was laying at home for 5 months, getting paid, and then of course when you go back to work after all that time off, you hate it. I don't blame Junior, but don't blame Afroman.
We've been beating this drum for 3 years. I couldn't handle it. I thought I had insomnia originally, seeing a psychiatrist, and I've stepped away from law enforcement because I believe my mental health is an issue now. The weight of that badge became too much.
Was there ever a specific post that ever identified you or singled you out?
Yes.
Was it one of the ones that Mr. Klingler showed?
No.
Why didn't he show that post?
That's a great question. We saw 3 different posts publicized by the attorney, including this hilarious one of a judge who looks exactly like Droopy Dog.
Ask him.
Deputy Phil Dipshit Receding Hairline Collins.
Mm-hmm.
Is your name Phil?
No.
Is your name Collins?
Nope.
Apparently this is the post Junior's complaining about.
You're telling me you had a nervous breakdown over being called a dipshit with a receding hairline?
I had a nervous breakdown because I was getting death threats to my family because my picture's on here with a bunch of accusations that are not true.
You're saying the only reason you resigned from the Adams County Sheriff's Office is because of the post to Mr. Foreman about dipshit receding hairline?
No, I never said that.
There is more reasons than just Mr. Foreman that caused you to resign.
I said my mental health came into question, and I felt it was the most responsible thing to do.
Justin, I'm going to ask this very plainly. Was there more than one reason why you left the Adams County Sheriff's?
Junior, come on. You had 5 months of paid leave off, and you didn't want to go back to work.
I answered that question, and I said yes.
So there is more reasons then than Mr. Foreman that caused you to leave the Sheriff's Department.
It had to do with the handling of this case.
Can you tell me what fact about you that receding hairline or dipshit refers to, please?
I'm sorry?
What private fact of yours does that refer to?
I think there's a picture of me, and I wouldn't trust him with methamphetamine crack ass alone in my house. I find that pretty insulting.
That statement is what you're suing on.
I told you this is one of many. You
Fine.
keep trying to make it singular. I'm telling you it's not singular, it's plural.
It certainly is. Junior was called a dipshit with a receding hairline and a meth addiction, but I don't know if any of those are false.
Okay, and so one of them is dipshit, one is receding hairline,
Yep.
and the other is meth heads.
Yes.
Oh, now I get it. He doesn't have a receding hairline. It's completely gone.
But this was Plaintiff's Exhibit 5. You said this was referring to you. Where's your picture in this?
I said, you asked me earlier.
Where's your picture in
No,
this?
and you asked me earlier.
Your Honor, I'd ask the witness to answer the question. Is your picture in this post?
No.
Is that a picture of your father?
Yes.
So this actually pertains more to your father than you?
Correct.
You're not a judge?
Nope.
You're not Roy Gabbard?
Nope.
Other than your voluntary resignation, have you lost any other income?
I've been employed in a year. I've been living off savings. Can't keep gainful employment because I'm going to VA when it's 5 days a week sometimes.
Wow, I have to use my savings because I don't want to work. Yeah, that's called life.
Well, you said that you went to surgery. When did you go into surgery?
I don't remember that.
Is the allegations of you being a thief come out of the handling of the money during the search of Mr. Foreman's residence?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have no further questions for Mr. Cooley Justin Cooley at this time.
And there you have it. Officer Poundcake's son confronting Afroman while he's on the stand.
Every bit of this was a lie, and you knew it.
Shouldn't have threw a fake rage. Shouldn't have threw a fake rage.
When you're testifying in court or even at a deposition, you cannot direct any type of statements towards anyone except for the attorney that's asking you the questions. But of course, our man Afroman disregarded those court rules and went right back out, Poundcake Jr., and told them that it was his fault. It was their insufficient, faulty search warrant that led to all the subsequent hilarious videos.
What was that?
A lemon pound cake.
Mama's lemon pound cake.
It's everywhere.
I pledge allegiance to the flag. Brian Newland is a flag. It made the sheriff wanna put down his gun and cut him a slice. Of what?
A lemon pound cake.
Randy Walters is the son of a bitch.
That we all get to enjoy.
Every bit of this was a lie, and you knew it.
Shouldn't have threw a fake rage.
Okay, so that was that was the confrontation between him and Pound Cake Jr. Okay. He reminds me of G Mac Cash. So I guess well maybe I said G Mac Cash is like this man, 'cause I think this man right here, Afroman, is older than G Mac Cash. G Mac Cash came up with the song about Montgomery Brawl for those who haven't heard it, okay? So we have Amanda McCullough here in the house. Hey girl, welcome to the check-in. She was saying, he has little man syndrome like a lot of people do. She said, I love his reply. We got Bull Monkey saying this doofus should not have been a police officer ever. And then we got Amanda saying, I literally had to make a lemon pound cake. That's my dessert of choice, lemon pound cake. Okay. So we do have one last thing here. I want to show you guys. I want to let you guys see his victory. We gotta show the conflict. We gotta show him going through the trenches in the courtroom, and we gotta show the victory, y'all. So it's a process. Let's get into it.
Outside this Adams County courthouse, the sound of victory. After jury sided with the musician Afroman, whose real name is Joseph Foreman, after a days-long civil defamation trial. Afroman speaking to WCPO right after the verdict.
I didn't win. America won. America still has freedom of speech. It's still for the people, by the people.
The jury finds in favor of the defendant.
7 Adams County Sheriff's deputies sued the musician. They argued Afroman used security video from a 2022 raid of his home and put it in music videos using deputies' likeness without permission.
There's damage to reputation, there's pain and suffering, there's public humiliation. There's everything you saw and heard from these detectives from the witness stand.
This raid taking place nearly 4 years ago following search warrants related to possession and trafficking in drugs and kidnapping. The rapper was never charged. Along with using the surveillance video in multiple music videos, including in the song Lemon Pound Cake, the deputies also say Afroman called them thieves and pedophiles, among other things, on social media.
I didn't go down here and sue the police department. I fixed up the damages they made, and I sung songs about them to raise money to do it. They were unapologetic.
The deputies wanted Afroman to pay $3.9 million in damages.
We got about a total of 250 pieces given out. This is the last one, and I'd like to give it to you.
Supporters of Afroman coming from near and far with the message both verbally and symbolically.
For me, this isn't really about Afroman. It's about free speech. So when someone like Afroman stands up for my free speech by using his talents, his musical talents, to fight the corrupt system, we got to come out and support him.
I'm glad things went my way, but if they would have took it off from me, I was happy about all the love I was getting from everybody. After them people kicked my door in.
In Adams County,
when life give you lemons, you make lemon pound cake.
Jay Shakur, WCPO 9 News.
All right. You know, he had people coming from near and far to support him in his trial for the American ability to have free speech, y'all. Afroman, he's something else, y'all. So thank you, Bull Monkey, for putting me on to that because I had not really paid attention to it. I did not. So what we got here? We have Bull Monkey saying, I like to feel the fur on my body. Okay. We got Amanda saying he did his job. They need to be ashamed. That's right. I don't say anything wrong with this man using the footage of people in his home to help him pay for the damage they refuse to pay. So, I mean, at least he's not spending out his own money for your mistake. You know what I'm saying? So we got Space Cookie here in the house saying, Hughes, welcome to the check-in. We got Byron Florida in the house saying, sup, y'all? Florida is in the building. All right, Florida. Bring that heat over here to the DMV, honey. It is cold here. It warms up during the day, but it's cold in the morning. Like 40-some degrees cold in the morning. For those who are still hanging out, please make sure you like the live stream. And if you're so inclined, support the channel by subscribing. I appreciate you guys. We got Bull Monkey saying he's got an Al Sharp convincing voice. That's right. Amanda said that's the positive. Yes. Whew, y'all. So we have been on here for 2 hours, 13 minutes, and 12 seconds. I keep saying I'm not going to do more than 2 hours, an hour and a half, but I keep hanging out with y'all, but I enjoy it, okay? So we started talking about initially about the alleged 15-point peace plan that may or may not exist. We also talked about like what's happening with the Strait of Hormuz, about Iran's position of power with them having it on lockdown, and they're not going to give that up, in my opinion. I'm just going to stand down on that. We talked about how the farmers are at risk of not being able to get their fertilizer. We talked about what went on with with TSA and the government shutdown. We talked about also the student that was killed at Loyola University by the illegal immigrant and all of that. And then we ended things off with Afroman and his success in the court. I think we kind of had a full circle moment here. Okay. I'm supposed to be back tomorrow. Okay. I will schedule it and put something in the community wall. I think that there is I think there's gonna be like some type of speech that Trump is having tomorrow. So I really don't want to be on while that's happening, but we'll see. Check my go ahead and subscribe, hit notifications, then you'll be made aware when I'm going live. And I'll also post something in my on my community wall as well. I try to get things scheduled out at least 12 hours in advance at minimum. Yes. So is there anything we got going on in the chat here? We got Brian Floyd saying, "Yeah, my favorite color, purple." And then we got Boo Monkey saying it's mauve. This is actually lilac. It is a shade. It's a light shade in the purple family. Mauve is more pink, like a rose pink, if you will. But yes, y'all, we got Boo Monkey. We got Brian Floyd saying Bull Monkey duly noted. Not y'all trying to talk about between mauve and purple, honey. I appreciate y'all. I really do. So we got Bull Monkey here from Denmark representing it's morning time where he's at, y'all. But anyway, y'all, I'll be back tomorrow. You all have a good night or a good morning, depending on where you are. And I will see you guys on tomorrow's check-in. Bye.